Hey guys, I've got a special tap for any marathon fans out there, specifically any Boston Marathon fans. But, I mean, if you're a fan of marathons, Boston Marathon is probably one that you enjoy as well. And this tap handle is a Sam Adams tap handle. It's also worth noting that there's a little bit of like history and stuff like that with 26.2 and the Sam Adams Boston Brew, the beer as well as the tap handles. So this is actually one of the oldest ones that I know of. I believe that this is one of the first versions. There's a couple of other versions as well. I'm not entirely sure about the timing of all of them, but this would definitely should be falling into earlier on that timeline. So if not the first one, it should be one of the earlier ones. And there's a couple of things with this one, and a couple of things with the other with Boston Brew as well as the tap handles. So I'll cover a little bit more of some of the other tap handles when I get around to doing those. If people do want me to kind of like bump those up and show those earlier, let me know. Aside from that, like when I get to them in my collection, then I will feature them. With this one, it's notable kind of for its simplicity. With Sam Adams, they've done a number of the tap handles that do the kind of standard oval. This is a variation of a standard pub style tap handle. So you've got the oval design up there on the top, and then you've got a long handle there. This one is a relatively thin handle here. It's not particularly wide as far as these go, but that is a common design for a lot of the Sam Adams taps. With some of the vintage Sam Adams taps, they actually have a curved design, so that's something that's common with lathe-turned tap handles. This one is a little bit more subtle here, so it just has that gentle arching out at the bottom and in towards the top. You'll notice that it does have this little metal portion here. You'll see that commonly when you've got a join. And they do that a lot with the Sam Adams tap handles, where they will have some sort of an element where you've got two portions that are coming together. This label here, you'll notice with labels, whenever I see them, one of the things I normally look for is whether or not the shape is similar to the shape of the item that's on. Some beers and some brands won't do that, so sometimes it'll be a oval shape, but a round sticker, etc., etc. Sam Adams typically is fairly good about that, where the sticker will actually match. And then you've got your finale up top. Most of those elements, so the ferrule down here on the bottom, the actual tap handle itself, as well as the finale, are all fairly standard. So that's a fairly common design, but 26.2 is fairly uncommon, or at least was fairly uncommon. If I remember correctly, when they initially released 26.2, it was only available for bars that were along the marathon run. So that meant that all the way from the beginning, is that in Newton, maybe? I can't remember. Somebody knows, let me know. All the way down to Copley Square. So any of the beer, any of the bars along the way that serve Sam Adams beer could, I believe, have 26.2. And then afterwards, it became a little bit more popular. They ended up canning it, and it became more readily available. I don't know how wide the distribution is for places where you could get it, but it was a lot more readily available. And one of the things that's notable is that Sam Adams kind of did it as a separate brand. So initially you would see the branding like this, where it says Sam Adams. It has the official logo here. So the Boston Athletic Association there with the unicorn, and then 26.2 Boston Brew. So initially it was kind of clearly under the Sam Adams label, and then if I remember correctly, they made it so that it was its own kind of brand underneath Sam Adams production. So kind of a little bit of interesting history there. And as I mentioned, I will try and feature the other taps when I do have a chance to get around to them.